Thanks for joining us. A former Kewaunee County Sheriff's deputy learns his sentence this afternoon.
As we told you back in September, Eric Pishek accepted a plea deal following claims of stalking a former girlfriend and poisoning a horse. In a first alert update, Emily Riley heard statements from the defendant and victim, who we are not showing to preserve her anonymity.
On Friday afternoon in a Kewaunee County courtroom, a judge sentenced former Kewaunee County Sheriff's deputy to 2 years of probation, along with $20,000 in restitution to the victim.
The ultimate action in September of poisoning the apples and throwing those into her pasture, placing them into her pasture, I can understand why she continues to this day to suffer the trauma that she is.
The victim gave an emotional testimony, saying Pishek's actions cost her personally and affected her business.
The trauma the defendant has caused, the emotional damage that will take me years to get over, the loss of business that will take me years to recover from are due to his actions. His actions.
As we reported in September, a felony stalking charge was dismissed but read into the plea. The sheriff says Pishek was placed on administrative leave last year and later retired from the department. Pishek made a statement apologizing to the victim and everyone involved.
I will always be grateful for the happiness you brought to my life, but I acknowledge those memories are now overshadowed by the ugliness of my actions.
Pishek is also ordered to 200 hours of community service that must be complete before the end of his 2-year probation. The judge also issuing a 6-month jail term that was stayed, meaning Pishek won't have to serve it unless he fails the other conditions of the sentence. In Kewaunee, Emily Riley, Action 2 News.